Test, 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 test. So welcome to another WATCHPRO original. I'm Rob Corder, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Mohammed Seddiqi. He's the Chief Commercial Officer of Ahmed Seddiqi Sons, based in Dubai, but comfortably the largest luxury watch retailer in the Middle East. And yeah, let's find out the perspective of what's been happening during lockdown, how the country and the region is emerging from that now, and how it's all been affecting the luxury watch market. So let's start with how life is, Mohammed. How is it for you in Dubai at the moment?
Well, Rob, things haven't been easy for the past 40, 50 days. Everything was on lockdown in Dubai. Cases are increasing day by day, but we're positive. Things are getting better now. We started opening up the stores in the malls almost 10 days ago in Mall of the Emirates, and just a week from yesterday in Dubai Mall. At the beginning, when we first opened, the footfall was obviously, people were scared and trying to avoid going to malls, but people are realizing the social distancing, keeping the safety measures, wearing their masks, gloves, and we see that the trend is increasing. People are getting in the mood of spending more and more. Dubai and the UAE, I would say they have helped a lot in supporting the people living in the UAE by providing them all the health measures, by providing them information about how to fight the COVID-19. And they have been very helpful in this. Medicines have been provided, hospitals are still available for people, and we hope that this ends soon, but we're thankful that we have the government of the UAE to support us during this pandemic.
Mm. I'm very interested in the psychology, 10 days after, we're talking massive shopping malls here. For those that don't know Dubai, Mall of the Emirates, I think was once one of the biggest in the world. Dubai Mall, I think, is still the biggest mall in the world. You've got a population of over 2 million in Dubai, over 4 million in the UAE. I mean, do people feel confident on day 1 or day 5, or now you say day 10 to get out more? Just from a British perspective, based here in London, I'm very interested to know how people react and behave once they're given a little bit more freedom.
I think people are still cautious. They're not overdoing it. It is done in a controlled manner. People are respecting the times. The malls have restrictions on the timings of people visiting the mall, so it is a maximum of 3 hours per individual within the mall. Each showroom has a maximum number of people, including the showroom staff, to be within the showroom, and there is a big sticker outside the showrooms indicating the number. So shops cannot allow the number to be exceeded. So once the number is to the maximum, they close the doors. So there is good awareness from the malls to support the retailers. And this is educating the end consumers. Just correct the numbers. It's around 8 to 9 million people living in the UAE, not 4 million.
4 when I lived there.
I think 4 is in Dubai now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a bit more. So people are following up the guidelines. As you mentioned, people will always be scared after being locked down for 40 days and then suddenly malls are open. The trend was that when we first opened, the first day or two, we had a lot of people going to discover what is happening, what are the rules, what are the guidelines. And then when they got to know, people started talking about it and passing the messages. And now you see that the trend is following in a very uniform pattern where you have people coming in specific hours. An important point that the parking and the entrance to the malls are not all open. So they're restricted, and it's obligatory for anyone entering the mall to be wearing a mask. If not, there is a fine from the government of 1,000 dirhams, just to control and to make sure that people are safe. So I think the guidelines that are given by the government, along with the support of the mall management is helping people feel more and more comfortable in visiting the stores and not being scared to be exposed to people with viruses. And all the malls have heat detectors to make sure that whoever is coming in is more or less, well, the heat detector is not the only way to target if someone is COVID positive or not, but it is a means of security for the people to feel more comfortable. People above the age of 60 are not allowed to go because they are more exposed to the virus. So there are many rules and regulations the government and the mall management have implemented to make sure that the people feel as comfortable as possible in visiting the malls.
Mm. And I suppose what other retailers of your type around the world will want to know is there pent-up demand? Do people, you know, having been given the freedom to go back and look at luxury watches, do they actually want to buy them?
Surprisingly, yes. Even before we opened the malls, we created a luxury home delivery service to our regular and VIP clients. Obviously, we don't have a platform of e-commerce, which is obviously something that we have to study. And it was a good lesson for us, the COVID-19, that we have to explore the e-commerce for the UAE in the future. However, even during the lockdown, the 40 days when Dubai was at a total lockdown, we were delivering watches to consumers to their houses. And most of them, they were following up with us and asking, do we have this or do we have that watch? And they want us to deliver to them. We had different terms of payments, whether it was an internet link or we take the credit card over there, or obviously cash payment on delivery. But funny speaking, that people were buying, and the trend is still ongoing. Even though we have opened the malls, we are still doing the deliveries and trying to do a very basic e-commerce platform for Seddiqi.
Mm. Now, Dubai in particular is a huge tourism hub, and obviously at the moment there are very few flights coming in and out. I think that Emirates Airline is not flying, for example.
Not yet, yeah.
I mean, how much of that? How much of an effect does that have on you, and what have you been told by the authorities there about when travel might begin to start up again?
Well, most probably flights are already open to some specific countries, and mainly it's outgoing flights from Dubai to X country, but no incoming flights for the moment. So no people are entering Dubai. The talks that we are hearing from the government is that Emirates Airline is going to open hopefully by 1st of July. Again, I think people will still be scared to travel right after the pandemic. Hopefully the COVID-19 will disappear by then, but if it doesn't and it's still there and still people will be able to travel, I think people will be more or less scared. Plus, anyway, we will be entering into the summer season where it's quieter in Dubai and it's too hot. I would say that still we are doing well with people living in Dubai, the expats living in Dubai, the UAE nationals living in Dubai. They contribute a majority of our sales as well. We are missing the Chinese, obviously. They were a big chunk of purchasers of luxury goods, but that doesn't mean that we depend only on the Chinese. We depend on everyone. We focus mainly on our clients living in the UAE to give them the best possible service and the best choices of watches that are available instead of pieces going out. So I think it's a good time for us to focus more and more on the region itself and on Dubai itself.
Yeah, I wonder whether whether travel might open up earlier with other GCC countries, and Saudi Arabia would obviously be a very key market for you, with people coming to shop in Dubai, where you have better availability, frankly, of the best watches.
Well, we hope things get better, and we hope to have more and more tourists coming, because we love them. They enjoy Dubai. They love Dubai, the hotels, the services, the restaurants, the shopping malls. So why not? We hope it's just a matter. I think the concern is now is the safety of everyone, and the government of the UAE is looking firstly for the safety of whoever is visiting or the people living here as a priority. So once they feel that it will be safer, then I think they will open the flights and the borders.
Mm. And how do you feel about the way that the brands have responded? I mean, in particular, Patek Philippe and Rolex have not. Well, Patek Philippe have already said that their 2020 launches won't happen at all. They will happen in 2021. Rolex would have been launching last weekend at Basel World if that had been going ahead, and we have no date yet for any new watches coming through, unless you've heard something I haven't.
Nothing yet.
But the Richemont brands all unveiled their watches online, basically at watchesandwonders.com last week. What have you made of the various approaches? Breitling's been very active. Some of the challenger brands have been out there online doing things.
I think it's a new way of communicating. For me, attending Basel Fair and SIHH for the past 20 years, my feedback is that the fairs in Switzerland have lost the essence of feeling towards the retailers. The focus was mainly on endorsements of celebrities, bloggers, etc. And the retailers who are spending the money to purchase the watches were left out. Obviously, Patek and Rolex are today the drivers of the watch industry, being one as a foundation and another as a privately owned business. We can see that they have taken the decision to be out of Basel Fair for various reasons, timings, rentals, etc. And the decision they have taken not to launch anything now is just to cope up with what is happening in the world. However, Richemont, being a public company, have to show numbers, and I believe the way they have launched the novelties through Watches and Wonders was a nice way to communicate to the end consumers mainly, and the retailers on the other hand. But the main focus is the end consumers, as they are also getting more and more into their own boutiques worldwide. So I think it was a good way to pump up or keep the people on the momentum of what is coming new, what is happening, and keep it a bit interesting for people. Everyone is waiting for Rolex. Yes, you are waiting for it. I am waiting for it. So far, there is nothing. And I'm sure that if Rolex does something, they will do it in the best way possible for their interest and for everyone's interest. So we're just waiting. And Patek, as you said, will be delayed till 2021. They don't want to launch anything for this year, just not to focus on novelties and just focus mainly on how to help support people in these difficult situations.
I mean, I wonder how you feel whether the online launches, such as Breitling having its digital summit, Watches and Wonders, there've been other online launches as well, whether that works for you as a retailer, and whether, I don't know, your phone starts ringing as soon as people see the amazing new Panerai or whatever watch that they saw at Watches and Wonders. Did it actually generate any excitement in the way that Basel World or Watches and Wonders definitely would have done in a physical form?
Yes, actually it did. I remember when they just launched the Lange watches, or FP Jones when he launched the new watches that he just launched last week or a couple of days ago. People started calling and they said, "We want this watch now." And we told them, they just launched it, you know. It's not as fast as you think that they launch it and we get it. So people are excited. People are waiting for it. People are keeping their names. They're willing to pay advance payments just to secure the deliveries of the watches that they have requested. And us at Seddiqi, we give priority to first come, first serve, based on clients who have a purchase history first at Seddiqi. Secondly, we look at the purchase history with that specific brand as well. So it always helps that we have the regular clients coming in. We also have new clients that are coming in and inquiring about watches since the beginning of Ramadan, when we started or when Watches and Wonders and other brands started launching the watches. Our WhatsApp and phone calls haven't stopped for requests of watches and watches and watches. So the trend is there. The trend is there.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, the biggest story of 2019 was probably the shortages. Well, you might call them shortages. You might also just call it a massive spike in demand for professional watches, steel professional watches from Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille, to a certain extent. Now, you know, Rolex's production is shut down. It hasn't even reopened today. Patek has only just started limited production, so they're going to have lost about 10% of their capacity for this year, it seems.
At least, yes.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that obviously some demand has been lost as well, but do you think we'll emerge from this crisis in the second half of the year with just as many problems with shortages and high prices on the secondary markets?
I just hope that you know, the COVID-19 is a very negative thing that affected the whole world economy, health of people, security of people. But one thing that it might help, and I believe that it will help, that it will affect the black market. Again, we just separate between the black market and the second-hand market.
Yeah,
2019, as you mentioned, was a difficult year, not because the supply was less, was just because the demand, thanks to social media, the demand for specific references in different brands increased in an incredible way. That is also thanks to the black market, the secondary market, leaving the certified pre-owned on the side. Now with what we are going through, we see that some of the second-hand dealers of the gray market have been affected a lot and selling watches at a cheaper price, at a discounted price, because they have payment restrictions or they have some payment dues that they have to pay to the people they were buying watches from, etc. What I see, that demand will still be there. People will still want watches, but looking at the platform of the Dubai Watch Week, where we educate people about watches, this should be helping more and more in educating people that a watch is not a device to say time only. It is a piece of art, and it is a mechanical piece of art where people spend years and years in developing a movement and creating a timepiece. It's not only a device where you buy it at $10,000 and you flip it for $15,000. Unfortunately, for the past few years, this was the case, where people using watches more or less like bitcoins, you know. So it was just a means of cashing out as soon as possible. You walk out of the retailer and you can make money out of it, you know. No one could have made any money out of that through the stock market or anything. The watches were the fastest. So I hope this thing changes. People appreciate more, and we have less and less flippers and people who really appreciate and wear the watches. It is difficult to control it. You will always have people. I was having a discussion yesterday actually with my father about this. We realized a lot of people who are buying watches who are not in need for the extra $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and they're just doing it because it's fun, or they're doing it as a favor. So it's the way we have to educate people that this is something people spend hours and years to develop, and you have to appreciate it rather than just thinking about the extra profit to do out of it.
I mean, I thought that Dubai Watch Week last year was excellent. Some of the forum discussions were were fascinating. I thought one of the most interesting was talking around this exact issue of people flipping watches, because we all know what flippers are. They're people who are, you know, trawling around authorized dealers trying to get watches at retail prices and sell them for, you know, pretty much 100% markups. But in trying to tackle that, you run the risk of upsetting collectors for whom trading watches, selling as well as buying their watches, is part of the fun. So, you know, it's difficult to sort of crack down on flippers and also you know, run the risk of upsetting people who actually do want to sell some of their watches in order to buy other new watches. It's part of the fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a bit challenging, especially being a retailer, to be fair and to know who deserves it and who doesn't. That's why we follow, us as a family, we follow a very strict wish list. So if customers come and they say, and many people obviously, with any agent around the world, there is always favorism of friends, family, etc. We don't do that. We follow the guidelines kept by us to all the family members. If he or she is a customer of Seddiqi, they will be put on the wish list. If he or she is a customer, let's say, of an X brand, and they have a good purchase history in that X brand, they will be put on the waiting list. But if they are customers of Seddiqi and they want to purchase a watch from X brand, but they are customers of Y brand under the Seddiqi profile, and they have nothing purchased from the X brand, we don't give them priority. So we try as much as possible to educate the clients that under Rolex, it's not only the Pepsi, the Batman, the GMT, the Daytona. You have the day dates, you have the Datejust, you have other models. The same thing goes with Patek Philippe, you know. The Nautilus and the Aquanauts are the hottest pieces today, but they are not the main brand or the main collection under the brand. There's the Calatrava, there is the Grand Complications, there are the Perpetuals, there are the annual calendars. They contribute, or they are more the DNA of the brand than the Nautilus or the Aquanaut. But because they have been misguided through social media that these are the hot pieces. Today, for example, a client can walk in a gray market dealer and pay for a steel watch, regardless of the brand, the same price of a gold or a platinum perpetual calendar from the same brand, you know. So the way the customer is thinking by paying a premium on something that is not worth it, and instead using that money to get something that has better value in the future, more complicated mechanism, precious metals, even maybe lesser production. No, they just look, Mr. X was wearing this watch, we will go get it. Mr. Y posted this watch, it means that it's in demand, the prices are going up, we get this watch. Who was benefiting the most out of this was the gray market dealers, because the prices were just going up and up and up. And me being involved a lot into the watches, I was talking to some of the gray market dealers here in Dubai and asking them, why is the trend like this? They told me that one gray market dealer buys it at retail. A second one comes, buys it at a premium of 20%. The third one comes, and so on. So it stays, the watch stays within the gray market by increasing the price, and then they adapt the prices for the consumers. So the consumers must be aware that this is the way what is happening, and they are the ones who are increasing the prices to suck it out from the end consumers. So we have to be careful. Yes, they are.
So the grey market people are trading within their own.
They are trading
effectively.
They are trading within. Yes,
a pyramid selling scheme where the only sucker is the person who eventually owns the watch.
Or what happened now before the COVID-19? A lot of them were buying the watches, the hot pieces, and the last person from the gray market who bought it at the most expensive price is lost now, because he bought it at a price that is so high, and now suddenly the demand is going down and the prices are crashing, so they have to sell it at loss.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is, that's why we always, just a few months ago, I remember one of our clients came up to us, and he bought a Rolex watch from the gray market, and it ended up being with a fake movement. So, and then we found out through the police that this guy from the ex-CIS countries had around 10 or 15 of these watches, and he sold them all with a premium, and he ran away. So again, why to take a risk of buying a watch that might be fake, that might be stolen, that if was stolen, the police will confiscate it, Interpol will confiscate it back, that might be abused in any way possible, that why to take the risk? Wait for it, be a loyal customer to your agent, not Seddiqi, anywhere in the world, and trust me, you will get everything. But do not, my point is that customers should not only focus on having the usual suspects, and to focus and look into the world of the watch industry, because it's unbelievable. You have things that are incredible, and it's not only these 5 or 10 references that people are always fighting for.
Yeah, well, I guess the education process has to continue, and describing how these grand complication watches in gold must be worth more than a steel watch.
Exactly.
Where there are tens of thousands of them out there in the world. So hopefully, it sounds like you're expecting, perhaps when the market fully restarts, that there might be a new price level for those hard to get watches.
Well, for the moment, we see that the trend at the beginning of the lockdown, people were worried, people were scared. So we realized that prices were a bit dropping. So a lot of people were concerned about this thing, but they realized that things are getting difficult, the demand is getting higher, and the supply is stopped. So I believe in the near future, things will start having value again, and things will get better. So as you said, Rolex are not delivering for the moment. Patek just opened with 30% capacity. So deliveries will be like really drops of water only. So it will be still difficult. It's a good thing that people will appreciate more and more. And I've been getting calls during the lockdown from some clients asking for watches, and I tell them the factory are closed. How can we deliver you watches? He said, yeah, I'm sure you have some watches in your drawer. I just wonder, where is this drawer? So I don't have a drawer. We don't have watches kept aside. The number of pieces we get is obviously very limited from these hot references. I would say that the numbers have never decreased from the factories. They still supply similar numbers with a percentage growth every year, but the demand has increased and the supply is more or less the same. So, and we try to cope up with that as much as possible.
Would you choose for Rolex and Patek to produce those red hot watches, more of those, or would you like them to keep the same balance, so that there are as many day dates, there are as many Calatravas, there are? Because I mean, you wouldn't want those brands to sort of shrink down to just a couple of models. You want them to have a broad range, a big story to tell, surely.
Yes, true. I think for the 2 brands that you just mentioned, Patek and Rolex, they study the families very well, and they make sure that they have a percentage of each family produced per year, so that they complement each other. So we don't want, and I hope that this will not happen. I know that for Patek Philippe, it will never happen, even for Rolex, that they focus on one specific model and they forget about the rest, and that model becomes the core collection of the brand itself. And there are some brands that have reached to that position where you have only one model that is successful, and that's it. So I know for Patek Philippe, it was a concern about the Nautilus and the Aquanaut and the demand that they had. They didn't increase the percentage of production at all. I wouldn't be surprised that if they even thought of canceling the line of the Nautilus or the Aquanaut internally, just to avoid people talking about these references and focus on the core business, which is the Calatravas and the complications that they have. So no, I don't think so. They will ever, the brands that are stable and big enough, they will never focus on one or two families under the whole profile.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I just wanted to take you back. You mentioned e-commerce, which is not something that Ahmed Seddiqi and Sons has done until now, but it sounded like you were thinking that's something that you need to accelerate a little bit. That might be an outcome from this situation.
Well, you know, with every situation that happens, you always have the positive and the negatives. The negatives, obviously, is the lockdown, the health and safety of everyone. And the positive things, we see what are the things that are wrong in the company, and we try to improve them. Training is one, obviously. We've been focusing a lot on training our team members to make sure that once everything is open, that they are ready. And the biggest concern is the e-commerce. I know that the UAE is still not into the e-commerce as much as the US or Europe in terms of luxury goods. We are strong enough in entry-level products, in electronics, in food products to deliver and everything. But being into the e-commerce for luxury watches is the next step, hopefully, for us, and we have to look into it and focus on it for the future.
And does it concern you that a lot of the big groups are now trying to sell more direct to consumers either via their own e-commerce sites or by opening their own boutiques, or is that something that you think would never happen in the UAE?
No, it will happen, and it happened already. We see that a lot of the Richmond brands have been opening directly, starting with Cartier, that have been working directly since many years now. I believe that, and my father always says that whatever is yours is yours. People will come to you, but we have to make sure that we provide the service, the trust, and the continuity of the business. So the end consumers always want to feel comfortable where they enter. They want to feel important, and that is the focus of Ahmed Seddiqi and Sons. We make sure that the client entering any of our stores, regardless being a high-end or a fashion store, they're all treated as kings. And the follow-up that we do always, the product assortments that we offer is an important thing, and the trust. So clients feel comfortable. We have the biggest after-sales service in the UAE, in the region. That itself plays a major role for us to make sure that the clients feel comfortable that if something happens to their watches, they have a reliable source to service it. And today at the Swiss Watch Service, we are the certified service providers for many brands for the region. So a lot of the watches are coming to Dubai instead of going to Switzerland for servicing. So that is an advantage for us. So again, it really focuses that we have the trust and the best service possible for the clients. So no matter what happens, e-commerce, they come and open direct, people will always end up coming, hopefully, back to us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time today. I hope everybody is safe and well at Ahmed Seddiqi and Sons. I wish you well, and hope the rest of the year is fantastic. And 2021 is a record for you.
Thank you, Rob. Wish you all the best, and thank you for everything. Stay safe, please, and we keep in touch.
Thank you.
You.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.